Chairman.
Gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized.
Thank you very much. I find myself in the uncomfortable position of supporting what my friend is trying to do, but opposing this particular amendment. So I feel compelled to explain why. I think what my friend from Massachusetts is trying to do is exactly the right thing. As a matter of fact, the Defense Appropriations Bill actually contains an amendment passed by a bipartisan majority of that committee calling for Congress to take up and do exactly that. Ms. Lee offered the amendment, and myself and I think 7 or 8 other Republicans on the committee supported her, so she prevailed. But I think in doing that, I think what that amendment recognizes is if we do simply an amendment to this bill, we're under a 10-minute rule. So we're going to decide whether to go to war or not in 10 minutes of debate. And again, I share my friend's frustration. This should have been taken up. It was taken up, but not seriously taken up by the committees of jurisdiction. But I don't think we ought to be making a decision of this magnitude with that little debate. So I'll continue to work with my friend. I know this amendment is offered in good faith. I agree with him on the position. I just don't think the amendment's the appropriate vehicle. I'll yield back. Oh, certainly yield back.
No, and I just said to the gentleman, I appreciate what he and Barbara Lee tried to do in the Appropriations Committee. It is a sense of Congress resolution. We did that in July. What the gentleman supported it as well, and I appreciate it. I'm under, and this is not, we're not voting on an AUMF here. We're saying that we ought to vote on an AUMF. So it's not 10 minutes of time on an AUMF. That's something that I hope the Committee of Jurisdiction, which I guess in this case is still the Foreign Affairs Committee, will ultimately do. But I guess my worry, and I would feel a lot better if the leadership of this House would tell me that, you know, by a date certain we're going to consider this, then we wouldn't have to do this. But my worry is that it's become too easy for people, I'm not just saying Republicans, but Democrats as well, to be on the sidelines and be a critic, point fingers, and have absolutely no skin in the game here. And I think if we're not going to do what I think is our constitutional responsibility, then we ought not to have our troops deployed in harm's way. And so I appreciate the gentleman's comments, but I still think that I think I offer this out of frustration and out of anger and out of kind of regret that I can't get any confirmation that we're ever going to do this. I don't want to be here 10 months from now or 2 years from now or 3 years from now talking about the need to authorize a war that, quite frankly, we should have authorized before we got engaged in it to begin with.
Reclaiming my time, again, I agree with my friend's frustration. I think it's appropriate to be frustrated, and I'll just continue to try and work with him and exert pressure on our side of the aisle. I know my friend is doing that in another vehicle legislatively, and I think that's an appropriate thing to do as well. So I thank him for his leadership on this issue. I just don't think this is the appropriate place for this, but again, there's no question your object's the right one, and I think everybody has been slow on this. The President waited 8 months after he began hostilities before he sent something up here. I agree with my friend's statement that though having sent something, we ought to act on it. I think you're absolutely correct on that. So hopefully we'll do that because I sense a growing bipartisan movement. I know my friend has continued his efforts and other members on both sides of the aisle. Mr. Schiff and I have worked together on this. We had 30 members that sent a letter to the Speaker on this. I think this is an issue that eventually we will confront, but I certainly am not critical of my friend for trying to move us a little more rapidly along that path. I think you're doing the right thing. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.